Welcome to another episode of Krazy Knights, and I'm one of your Krazy Knights co-hosts, Jamie McNichol, and unfortunately I'm going solo due to, I want to hit at the top of the show, our other co-host David Fowler has had a couple of emotional days. He's lost a family member, not as a person, but more importantly, he's lost a very close relative in his family, his pet cat named PC, and it was put down yesterday due to a blockage in the urine tracts, and our hearts goes out to him and his wife, so they're just going through the emotional side. They just buried it today, and yeah, for everyone here at Krazy Knights, David, hang in there, and also I'll be there next week, David, to cheer you guys up with my partner Shay and I coming over for a couple of days over the weekend to see an awesome band, Ice Earth, and a few other things. But we'll get that out of the way, and let's go into this show right now. It's another warm welcome. We had this person on last year, towards the end of last year, and he's worked with Kiss on the remaster sessions. He also has a project called Rebuilding Robert, and we are talking to the man himself again, Robert V. Conte. Good evening, Robert, and welcome aboard again.
Hello, Jamie. How are you? Thanks for inviting me back.
That's the more the merrier. You're welcome back here anytime. And I just want to give you an update, Robert. Comic-Con has got back to our show by email, and they're looking into getting you over here for a Comic-Con Expo, whether it be this year or next year. At this present time, you're on the reserves, but your name's in the door. So your foot's in the door. We're just waiting for more confirmation and see if any people drop out over the next few months. And as soon as we know, you'll be the first one to know.
Well, that sounds very exciting. I've always wanted to travel down under. It would be a great opportunity to meet Kiss fans that have been very, very kind over the years. That have written me and mentioned how much they like the remasters and everything. And it would be a great opportunity to actually shake everybody's hand and say hello and meet you and David in person and have a great time. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that to happen.
Yeah, and by all means, this is our thanks to you, Robert, and we just want to make it grow. So the first question I have to ask on behalf of Krazy Knights, how is the project coming along, and do you have any last coming projects you're coming, or any updates on that project?
Well, you're referring to the show Rebuilding Robert, which I've
that's right. Yeah,
which I've been working on in various stages for the past 6 months or so. When we first spoke back in the summer, we were ready. I was ready to proceed. Mach 10, as far as I was concerned, as far as getting it going and getting it produced. And there's this thing called life that gets in the way sometimes. The metaphor is the roller coaster. You have your highs and you have your lows, and somehow you have to make it all work out, right?
Yep.
So, during the initial pre-production of Rebuilding Robert, unfortunately, we were hit with a major setback in the sense that the original plot in the original direction we were going to go in regarding the show and its original premise, we got hit with some information that unfortunately had to change the entire direction of what we had originally conceived the show to be into a brand new setting. I can't get too much into it yet, but it was a situation where imagine playing in Candyland and thinking that life is all good and everything's happy, And then all of a sudden you eat a candy cane that's rotting from the inside. Not very tasty, is it? No. So, we got some news that was very difficult pill to swallow. We've had to take some time off to kind of reconfigure things and figure out the best way to tell the original story with this extra element in it that we were hoping to make the most of it. And, the show is going to be moving forward just with a different dynamic. And that's what life's all about anyway. So the concept of rebuilding Robert is oneself rebuilding from tragedy, setbacks, illnesses, bad news, ex-girlfriends, whatever, and trying to rise above it. So in the sense of the concept, it remains the same, but the dynamics changed a little bit. And I hope I haven't bored you with that long explanation.
No. So we were talking at the start of the show, Robert. Is there a fan page that people can go to, or any website they can go to just to help build the audience for you and show support? They don't just necessarily have to be a Kiss fan to know who you are, but to be a comic fan. Yep.
If you're a comic book fan, if you're a fan of hard rock music in general, if you like trading cards, I mean, I've done so many things in the 28 years that I've been working creatively that if you go on to www.rebuildingrobert.com, that's the Facebook fan page, and if you could like that, I'll be able to send you guys some really cool updates and exclusive news and things as the project moves forward. I also have a personal Facebook page, which is Robert V. Conte, and if you look on that page and like that as well, then I'll send people who do respond to that exclusive tidbits and portions of some of the scripts and things as they're ready, and some behind-the-scenes stuff that I think Kiss fans will find interesting as time goes on.
We will definitely plug that for you on our podcast page on Facebook. We're building Robert, the Facebook page, and we'll get the fans to go over to your personal page as well, and by all means to show you the support and the encourage. And most importantly, as you know, we're a unified bunch of people. We are crazy as well, but you get that.
Oh, yeah. So, I got to tell you, Kiss fans are the best fans in the world. And the good thing is that no matter how many years go by, how many decades, Kiss fans I met way back in the 80s, 30 plus years ago, I'm still friends and in touch with to this day because Kiss brought us together. But, there's so many other things that we have in common that we've remained, good friends, good acquaintances, so on and so forth for a long time. And I truly believe that I don't speak for myself. I speak for many when I say that many friends I've met through the Kiss community will probably remain so for the rest of my life. And I'm very blessed for that.
Yeah. And before we do go into the main part of this show of You're One of the Best album, the last week and a half there's been drama among the Kiss fans' reaction towards the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ace Frehley came onto the Eddie Trunk show about a week and a half ago and voiced his thoughts on that Gene and Paul do not want to play with the original lineup. They rather play with this lineup. And I think about 24 hours or 48 hours after that was aired on the show, Kiss have put their statement on Kiss online, and stated that no form of Kiss will be playing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Now, Robert, I just want to ask on behalf of Krazy Knights, due to you being a Kiss fan yourself, what's your reaction and your response to all the hate mail that's going around the circles? And more importantly, the second question is, do you agree with the way things are now set upon?
Well, it's when I first heard that Kiss was being inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as I'm sure most Kiss fans around the world, were very excited that this was actually going to happen, especially in the 40th anniversary. Mm-hmm. I find that what's happened since then to be tremendously unfortunate, because this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame could have been the best one ever, could have been the best event in the entire history of that institution. Yeah. And it's a shame that full-grown men cannot sit down and reason with each other for the sake of the fans, the people that kept them going for so long, and work out something that would have been beneficial to everyone. And let's go back to 1995 with MTV Unplugged. No one up to that point thought Kiss would ever reunite. Magic happened, and then Tiger Stadium happened. What's unfortunate here is that it comes across as many stubborn people refusing to compromise to make something magical happen again. And the fans lose out more than anything else. Instead of this being the best Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony ever, it's probably going to be one of the worst, because some of the other acts that are being inducted aren't going to be performing either. And I really don't know, I really don't know what kind of show this is going to be. I think I speak for Kiss fans worldwide when I say that I'm grateful that this was announced before tickets went on sale, and Kiss fans from all over the world would have flown in for this. I certainly got quite a few emails and Facebook messages requesting that people meet me if they were coming to New York, because they were going to pay whatever the price was to see Kiss at this event. That dream has been robbed from so many people, and it's really a shame. I mean, I've been a Kiss fan for decades, and this would have been just the perfect icing on a decades-long journey that would have given the band the kudos they've deserved for so long, because they've been ignored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for so long.
I think what you just said about being ignored for 15 years, because they were first eligible in 1999 or 98, and now they finally get in. But the fans did that voting poll for the Hall of Fame, but that was only counted as a one vote. I understand this, and I did say this on the last episode, and plenty of other episodes as we talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For what we know, the original four has only been recognized as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, only the original four. Me, however, being a fan since '79, I like to see all members of Kiss, all formations of Kiss being recognized and inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or don't induct them at all. Yes, I will say this, the original four did cement a significant milestone for the landscape of the band, with four characters creating a persona, having a dream to chase, and, within 18 months of the first album, they hit the big market with the Live One, and then they started to do Madison Square Garden in '76, and then it just snowballed and snowballed. But when Peter Criss left the band in 1979, in comes Eric Carr. There was another shapeshift moment of a new character, of a new drumming style, a new form of metal, well, not metal, but a new form of music that was created within the band. So, in a way, I would like to get everyone that's been a part of KISS to be recognised as a whole. But I look at the bigger picture. It doesn't matter who goes up and gets inducted. For me, the name KISS, the band KISS, is being inducted in. Now, whether we go into the politics side, whether they're in there with Madonna or ABBA or so forth, it does give a big slap in the face for all the work that these bands like KISS and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles had pioneered the rock music genre to a form of where they can just induct anybody they feel that fits the criteria. Now, I have heard other people saying, oh, why don't they make the stage on the induction ceremony and just split it up into different era? Well, that would be a great idea, but it's not a KISS gig. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gig. And there's 7 bands, including KISS, that's been inducted in. Now, you're right, Robert. KISS are not performing, as we know, at this stage, but what's going to happen with Nirvana? Without Kurt Cobain, it's just going to be the Foo Fighters, and that's not going to work. Cat Stevens, well, we don't know if he's going to play. Linda Losfeld, she retired from all forms of performing. The E Street Band have been inducted in, but Bruce Springsteen just finished up an Australian tour just recently. He's getting time off. Whether he plays with the E Street Band, it's another thing. And Hall & Oates, we don't know if they're going to play. So this could be the most under par Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. As we say, there'll be no performance. So who's going to play?
It really, yeah. I mean, sadly, this could be the most disastrous, ceremony in its history. I mean, it's got the potential for that. And the thing is, I'm hoping that the current and past members of KISS can work something out, even if it's at the midnight hour, so that they can be properly received in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The fans can enjoy in this event, and that everybody can shake hands and move forward. We're not talking about a tour. We're not talking about we're not talking about a long-term commitment. We're talking one night only. Okay, we're not talking. So this is why this sounds even honestly nuts to me, because we're not talking about these long 250-page contracts that encompass a year or 2 years. We're talking a matter of hours, and for everybody to say, hey, I want this, 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 and if I don't get it, then nothing. It's just it's just a disrespect to the fans. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just want to ask you this question, Robert. Do you feel that if KISS did perform with original members on stage, will open up an old can of wounds? Not an old can of wounds, an old can of worms, because of what happened at the MTV Unplugged, because they knew there was a marketing thing. Now, over the last 13 years, Gene and Paul has been marketing this lineup. The same back at the Unplugged, they were marketing the Unmakeup era of the Revenge, and they also recorded Carnival of Souls. But once Ace and Peter joined them at the MTV Unplugged, they saw a different marketing thing. Now, reunions don't happen just for the sake of it. It's there to make things bigger than what it was. And do you see, if they did perform at the Hall of Fame, the original four, do you think Paul and Gene are afraid of what may come after it?
Okay. I think. See, here's the thing. Okay. Any brand that stands the test of time has to evolve in order to keep going. Okay? Let me give you an example. A few examples. Think about Mickey Mouse. If Mickey Mouse was still drawn as he were in 1928, nonstop, and his characterization was the same as it was in 1928, he wouldn't have survived, you know. Batman. If Batman were drawn the same way he was in 1939, all the way to the present, could he have survived? No. Bob Kane, who created Batman, he created some great characters, co-created some great characters like the Joker and Catwoman and so on and so forth. But if we were to rely just on Bob Kane all these years, Batman wouldn't have survived. Same thing with Godzilla. Look at the first Godzilla film and look at all the campy ones in the 70s. If we had to rely on that being today's Godzilla, there wouldn't be a Godzilla movie coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah. So
what I'm saying to you is this, is that all brands, especially when it comes to characters, they have to evolve, they have to change in order to survive the long term. Now, Kiss is different in the sense that there are human beings behind this brand. There are four, living human beings that started this band and fortunately are still alive. We don't, part of what makes rock and roll legendary is that, sadly, a lot of the artists we've looked up to have passed on. The Doors lost Jim Morrison in 1971, yet, the Doors are still, really popular. Led Zeppelin, John Bonham's been gone, 34 years, but Led Zeppelin still rocks. Kiss obviously has had its share of casualties. I mean, Eric Carr passed away, Mark St. John passed away, but, Kiss is still a full-functioning band.
Yeah.
And, I can't think of, maybe The Who and the Stones. And, they've certainly been around a little longer than Kiss and certainly, still perform. But Kiss is a unique entity. And it's going, I personally believe Kiss will survive Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons' departure because they're, you look at the history of the brand, and even though we may not want to accept that, I remember quite clearly in 1983, people refusing to believe that Kiss could survive past Ace Frehley's departure. Yet here we are, 30 years later, So
that was the same with Peter Criss left. They didn't know what the next drummer was going to be like, especially Eric Carr. And look what Eric Carr did to Kiss. I believe Eric Carr was the one that saved Kiss in the end.
It's funny. I do say this to Kiss fans, and some of them, understand, and others don't accept this. But if Kiss had not evolved in the '80s by taking the makeup off and going into, a harder musical direction, I don't believe they would have survived. If they had, if the original four had stayed, there never would have been Lick It Up. There never would have been Animalize. It would have been different sounding albums. They may not have, corresponded to what was popular at the time. So, there's all these variables. There's a lot of speculation, of course. But the bottom line is that I have to, Kiss fans, and including myself, have to give Paul and Gene a lot of credit for working so hard for keeping this machine alive as long as it has. So you may not agree with all their decisions. And that's fair. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But Kiss lives today because of Paul and Gene, and I tip my hat to them because they kept it going all the time. Now, Peter and Ace, they've been in the band various times over the past 40 years, but they don't have the longevity factor, and that's just reality. They can, they certainly were in the band's original heyday. They certainly were a very important part of those times, and those records, to me, still stand the test of time. The first Kiss album I listen to regularly. That's how much I love that album. But you know what? Could Peter have played on Lick It Up? I'm not so sure. Could Ace have played on Krazy Knights and done the same good job as Bruce Kulick did? Not so sure.
That's the same with Revenge as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Revenge is one of the best. Revenge is in my top 5 Kiss albums of all time, and I don't think, with all due respect to Peter and Ace, I don't think that they. You hear at various times how they want equal this and equal that. They gave up that opportunity. When Kiss fans complain that Tommy wears Ace's makeup and Eric wears Peter's makeup, that's because Peter and Ace chose to sell their likenesses. Yeah, people have to understand these things. If Kiss, fans if they understand the entire picture, Gene and Paul may not always have the popular vote, but they're the reason Kiss still lives today. Yeah. And, God bless Eric Carr. It would have been very interesting had he lived to see if the reunion tour would have even have happened. These are things that they sound crazy to hear, but you know what? It's not outside the realm of possibility that things would have been very different today had he lived. You never know.
Of course. But see, like Paul has said numerous of times over the last decade, that Kiss will not be without the 4 original members, and Kiss today will not survive.
Right.
And he's right. I mean, I'm not going to go out on a limb and bash Ace and Peter for their downfall or whatnot, because I've been there myself. I had plenty of rock bottoms in my life, and basically what I had to do was pick myself up and carry on. But it's like one big dysfunctional family, and most rock bands aren't dysfunctional. I mean, how many lineup changes has... All right, let's go out on a limb. How many lineup changes have the Eagles had over the course of the years? Or Foreigner, or AC/DC, and so forth. I cannot name one band that kept the original lineup from start to finish. And it's, whether it's ego or drugs, alcohol, or combination of both, there's always going to be a problem with inside the band. But how do you rectify that problem? Just go out there and play your heart out like they were. But I think the cracks were too deep for the band to continue on with Peter in 79, 1980, and the same with Ace Frehley in 83. And that's why it took that course of 13 years for Ace to come back and 16 years for Peter to come back.
It's funny because I was thinking about before Ace went on their trunk and before Kiss made their announcement, I was thinking about the various ways this could possibly work, And one of the things that was troubling me was I said, okay, how do you have Ace and Peter in makeup and then literally have Tommy and Eric in the same makeup on the same stage with Gene and Paul? It just how could you pull that off? And the casual listener or the casual music fan who's not necessarily a diehard Kiss fan, that would create a huge amount of confusion. What is this? What are these two guys here on the left? And why are these two guys on the right wearing the same makeup? Or what's this all about? You want to, I always want to be respectful to everybody who has ever been in that band. And Tommy and Eric have worked very hard in Kiss, and they deserve credit too. In some ways, they've been in the band. They've contributed more to the band than Ace and Peter. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's a reality too. So, not wanting to snub. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just agreeing with what you said, because I do understand that people do have their favourite moment of Kiss or the favourite era of Kiss. But you're right. Eric and Tommy had done something over the last 2 albums. Okay, they might not stand up against, say, Destroyer, but the thing is, a lot of fans got to understand Sonic Boom is not Destroyer or Revenge or Creatures of the Night. It's Sonic Boom, the same as Monster. It's not like Hot in Hell or Rock and Roll Over. That is Monster. And this is what fans got to understand, that yes, we can all have our own expectations of what we as a fan want, but when those expectations don't come to pass, there's a big upheaval. And I've seen it over Facebook over the course of the last 5 years. I've seen it more now due to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. But yeah, there's a big uproar, and I get it. I get that fans don't agree with it. I mean, if we all agreed on one thing, it'll be a boring place. It really would be.
Right, and the thing is too, again, you Kiss got here 40 years later because 2 of the 4 members, refused to let the band die. And, again, my hat was tipped to Gene and Paul because, they are definitely some of the most business-driven, hungry people to this day that I've ever met in rock and roll, and that's a rarity.
Yeah.
So to have a functioning the functioning machine called Kiss still around, I'm so happy and proud of that. And the fact that I was able to contribute to some part of history, I feel, I'm always blessed when I think about that. It's one thing I wanted to mention too. You had mentioned Sonic Boom. Now this is interesting. If you remember, Sonic Boom came with a second CD that was Kiss Classics, a remix of some of the
yes.
some of the classic songs. Now,
Japanese,
I have a 16-year-old son who prefers the songs on that disc more than he does, let's say, like he prefers the Black Diamond on that disc as opposed to the Black Diamond on the first Kiss album. Now, me personally, I find that very odd. I'm like, why would you like that version better? But you know what? That is his first taste of Kiss, so to speak, was Sonic Boom, and those were the first versions of the songs that he heard, and those are the ones he likes. So you know what? I'm not going to argue with the new generation of Kiss fans. If they want to listen to the Kiss Classics disc over the first Kiss album, more power to them.
And that's the thing. A lot of fans just need to show a little bit more respect to these new generation, because we all got involved or got into Kiss certain periods of our life, and that second CD, I think it was the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu remastered or retakes of the classic songs. Yes, there's some great songs on there, and I will say this, I don't think there's a problem with those recordings compared to the original. I mean, yes, some of the songs are a little bit slower, some of them a little bit toned down due to the vocal range or whatnot, but 40 years they've been doing it, and age does play a part, and I like it. I got the Digipack Sonic Boom of the bonus as well, and I love it. And see, that's the thing I was going back on about, that we don't all have to agree, but Kiss weren't a band that you had to buy everything that Kiss brought out, or you have to agree with everything that Kiss brought out. But this what makes Kiss interesting. They go out and do things different than every other band.
Absolutely. And again, I hope when it comes to Rock and Roll of Fame, I'm hoping that somehow, some way, before the event, that whatever needs to be done to get them there will be done. And if all of them, if every member involved and their managers and so and so forth, all the lawyers, if everybody can just work it out so that this band is acknowledged the way it should be at this event at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, It needs to happen. It would break my heart, and it breaks my heart now when I think that Ace Frehley's last appearance as a Kiss member is on a Dunkin' Donuts commercial. That bothers the hell out of me. That Ace's last appearance in Kiss makeup is, 10 seconds in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial. I find that absurd. Absurd.
Now, we're going to go on to a different subject here. We're going on to You're One of the Best album, and we were talking briefly in little snippets of that while you're doing the remastered catalog. But the first work that you did with Kiss was You're One of the Best. Now, before you go into the story, I want to ask straight out, I'll rephrase that question again. How is Gene and Paul as a businessman compared to them being a member of Kiss?
To put it in this way, I'd like to put it in this way. I have a unique perspective because when Gene and I first started talking and I started doing various things for Kiss, this was the Revenge / Alive 3 era. You understand?
Yep.
So the Kiss I had met, the Gene and Paul I had met then, are very different people in some ways than they are today. Because during the Revenge / Alive 3 era, the band's future was uncertain. There wasn't, the new success of the reunion tour. None of that stuff happened yet. So, they were a lot more accessible then. There were times when, Gene would call me at 2:00 in the morning, and we'd be on the phone talking about various subjects for quite some time. I still have this tape message to this day. The day that Tigers Stadium tickets went on sale, Gene called me and said, "Robert, tickets sold out, 47 minutes. Amazing. Talk to you later. Click." Stuff like that. And it was really funny in those days when I would get phone calls. I'd come home and go to my office, and I hear these messages from Ace or Paul, and Gene called me the most, but it was always interesting. And Gene's definitely one of the most successful businessmen in entertainment ever, and he deserves credit for that. My time during the time I was working, with them on the remasters and some of the merchandise and things. One of the things I always adored about Gene was that literally, if you had to leave a message for him, he would get back to you usually within the hour, if that. And one of the things that I do believe is sincere about Gene and Paul was that they were always grateful that the fans supported them. The real diehard fans supported them during the dry times, and I saw that with my own two eyes. During some of the Alive 3 signings and the Unplugged conventions, and the fact the reunion happened was magical. And to have been a part of that, I remember being in the 14th row at Tiger Stadium, dead center, and being surrounded by so many people. A lot of them I knew, they were Kiss fans from New York and from California and from Chicago. Everybody, came to this thing, and it was like a religious event. It was like, oh my gosh, the superhero gods have returned, and it was a great time to be alive. I was only, I think, 25 or 26 at the time. And to be part of that, I had a close friend of mine once, bring up the film Almost Famous, the Cameron Crowe movie. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like that. It was like, wow, here are the guys I idolized as a kid and a teenager, and here I am working with them and working on great stuff together and being part of this magical experience. It was surreal. surreal. I mean, when it was all over, it took me a while to adjust because I said, how do I go from this every day and this and now this? You know, it was a dream of a lifetime, and I'm so thankful to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to get into it a little bit deeper. They did the Unplugged, but before that they recorded Carnival of Souls, but because of whatever reason they put it on the shelf and it released later on. Now, was it a Kiss management thing that you wanted the best album had to come out, or was it mainly Gene and Paul's idea that came out?
Well, you know, again, here's how when I was first hired as Kiss's catalog consultant, the original idea, the original concept of You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, was that they wanted to do a collection. Or actually, let me step back a bit. We had pitched the idea to package a collection of Kiss rarities. The idea was to have different versions of some of the top songs, you know, Rock and Roll Night, Beth, so on and so forth, that came from other live concerts that we had found in the Polygram vaults. For instance, instead of the Rock and Roll Night you heard on live, here's the Rock and Roll Night that was recorded as one of the possibilities for a live too. Let's hear that instead. That kind of thing. We had found, or I had found, they literally, and I say they, I mean the record company, they had taken me to their vault, and I was there in New Jersey, and I was there working with various people for about 3 days nonstop. I mean, we were going through boxes and boxes and boxes of tapes, and you know, in multi-tracks, and it was just insane. I mean, I remember writing all the stuff down as we were finding it, and I just couldn't believe that there. I mean, for instance, there were just rows and rows of tapes just for the Elder, all the different multi-tracks for the Elder. I mean, it was nuts, you know. Boxes, Aces tapes, Aces solos, boxes of the stuff. I mean, it was just like, you know, the mecca of the Kiss recording world. You know, it was really, really something. But anyway, so what had happened was, over the 3 days, I had found roughly 14 different tracks that were live versions of, you know, songs that were on a live and a live too, but from different shows. And we had made a rough tape of what we had wanted to pitch to the band, and we put it all together, sent off the tape. You know, the concept was approved, meaning that, great idea. The other thing about You Want the Best was originally it was only going to be sold at the concerts. It was not originally going to be sold in the record stores. That was the original idea was, oh, hey, you're at a Kiss concert. Here's a collectible Kiss album you can't get anywhere else. You know, a disc of rarities and demos and things like that. I mean, the original marketing plan for You Want the Best differed greatly from what ultimately happened.
Now, was that going to be released worldwide at the concerts, at the reunion?
The idea was we were going to start selling it at the Tiger Stadium show, and as the tour moved on, it was going to be available only at the concession stands. You know, you buy your Kiss T-shirt, you buy your Kiss poster. Yep. Oh, here's a CD just for the show. You know. Yeah. But it also came out on.
But it also came out on vinyl too, didn't it?
There was a limited edition vinyl. I definitely remember that because it was, for me to get the vinyl in the mail and see my essay on the back cover with my name and everything, it was just like, oh, wow, this is what it was meant to be, you know, because I come from the vinyl generation. The CD generation came later. So, yes, it was.
I'm collecting vinyl at the moment. I want to get You One of the Best. You got the best on vinyl, but it's going to be hard to find.
Yeah, now I was going to say that's all. It's funny, when it came out, it was plentiful, but now it's a toughie. There's a few of those vinyls from that era that are really tough.
Yeah.
But the Creatures of the Night picture disc, the glow in the dark picture disc, comes to mind immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made it out to Australia, but that was a hard one to get.
But going back into finding the box and listening to the box and the old, going into the vault type of thing, with songs like Two Time and Ladies Room that made it out onto You're One of the Best, You Got the Best, were they actually from the live era or the live 2 era, or the rumor that I've been hearing around, they were actually recorded in the studio leading up to the reunion tour?
Well, I've been asked this many times over the years, and I'm going to tell you the best answer I'm able to give you, which is that the tapes and what we heard when we listened to that music and came up with the sequence and everything, when we sent those tapes off to Los Angeles, originally when the project hit my lap, I was under the impression that anything that was pulled was going to be sent to the band. At the time, they were talking with the record company was talking with Eddie Kramer about actually, being the production, the producer of it. I mean, there were a lot of things in the works or a lot of discussions that ultimately things didn't happen the way we had originally conceived. But the idea at the time was, in the original concept of the album, that Eddie Kramer was going to, remix all this stuff and make it sound just fantastic. Didn't work out that way. What we had sent from New Jersey to Los Angeles, actually Tommy Fair, now guitarist of Kiss, was actually a co-producer of the album at the time. We had sent the tapes to Tommy, and then, at that time I thought, my work is done. I'll work on the packaging part of this album now. And let's just say that I received the final mix of it about a week before it was released, and what I heard on the preview tape was very different than what we had submitted. And that's really all I can say. So come to your own conclusion with that one. But let me play it through this way. The room service I heard was very different than the room service that you hear today.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about that when it finally did come out, there was a bit of a negative vibe against it. Now, can you share basically the concept that you had and compared to what it came out? How did it all fall apart? Why didn't it sell as much as it did?
Well, again, what happened was when we had sent off these tapes of the original sequence, I mean, I had, just to give you an idea how different it was, You Wanted the Best in its final form, when it opens up, it's the same announcer that was on a Live 2, same exact sample where it says, "You wanted the best, you got the best," so on and so forth. The one that we found an intro, which I thought was very interesting, which I believe was originally aired as a radio commercial for Kiss Alive. It was either Wolfman Jack himself or a Wolfman Jack sound-alike who came up with this great, introduction to "This is Kiss, the loudest band in the world. Here you are, Kiss." That's how we sampled that for the opening of "You Want the Best." And I don't know if it was legal reasons or they didn't ultimately like the way it sounded, but I thought that was a great opener. We had found other songs like that, "Flaming Youth" from one of the shows, "Take Me" from one of the other concerts. I mean, and like I said, it was about 14 tracks. That was supposed to be the entire album, just a live concert sound that was the best of a live 1 and a live 2 tracks from both records, but not those actual recordings, different versions of those recordings. And that's not what happened. Ultimately what happened was, and again, it could be for legal reasons, financial reasons, they just decided to do a best of a live 1 and a live 2 with 4 quote-unquote unreleased tracks and a Jay Leno interview, which I didn't even know about until, again, a week before the album came out.
Yeah, and that's basically what I was going to ask you. How did that idea come about with the Jay Leno interview at the end? And you just said that wasn't your idea. You've heard it when the final cut came through. So it might have been a Kiss thing, a Gene thing, or a Paul thing, or a management thing.
You know, whomever came up with the idea, I mean, at some point there was an idea on the table to have Jay Leno conduct an interview. I didn't think using that interview for the album was the best of ideas. It was, to me, 17 minutes that could have been more music. It didn't really mesh with, what the original concept. The original concept, if you wanted the best, you got the best, was rock and roll's comic book superheroes. Here is a limited edition release just for the fans who attend the concerts. Here's a taste of what Kiss was in its original inception. The original 4 guys. Here's some classic songs from classic concerts that you hadn't heard before. And unfortunately, when you have too many chefs in a kitchen making the same soup, it doesn't necessarily taste the way it's supposed to. You understand what I mean? So by the time the record people and the lawyers and everybody else had their 2 cents put in, the album turned out to be very different. Even the album artwork.
Let's talk about the artwork for a second.
Sure.
Yeah. How different was it compared to when it came out?
Well, the artwork, the concept of a comic book look, and the disc, the actual disc itself, which has a comic book panel taken from the Marvel Kiss comic. That's probably the only piece of art that I, suggested that remained in the final packaging. Everything else, even the cover artwork, while the idea that collage of what you see on the cover art with the band like bursting out of like a purplish background, the illustration that I originally had in mind for that, it would still be the same kind of collage, but it was a much more detailed, less airbrushy type of look. Gene on that cover looks a lot more photorealistic than, let's say, Paul does. Paul and Peter look not as detailed as Gene and Ace look on that cover. And, again, it was something where the creative department at Mercury Records said, we think we can do better than this. In my personal opinion, it didn't turn out the way I had hoped it would. But, again, when you're working with a committee of people and not just a couple, things change. And
now, was Hooligan going to be on You One of the Best, even though it was a misprinted song on there was a bit of copies of Alive 2, that there were some songs that were misprinted, that were printed on the vinyl cover but not actually on the album, like Hooligan and Take Me and Do You Love Me and all that. Like you're saying, it was a compilation of the best ones. I just wanted to expand that. If that was going to be sold at the concert venues, by the time they got to Australia in 97, would we got songs from the 1980 concert like Take Me, which is on the box set that Ace Frehley did, or say, for instance, Detroit Rock City from this 1980 Sydney concert? Was there any idea to make it something special for each country as Kiss go along the 2-year reunion tour?
It didn't go that far, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why. In the initial stages of the Kiss Remasters project, I had wanted to release Killers in the United States for the first time. And it turned out to be a legal nightmare. It seemed, Polygram Europe was, demanding things that the U.S. just couldn't deliver. And it was a nightmare. It would have been great for Kiss Killers to have finally been released in the U.S. because of, the 4 new tracks that had not ever been released in America before until, I guess 1 or 2 of them appeared on the box set. But at that time, it was an idea, and we said, hey, you know what? Why don't we see what other, shows are possibly available in the, the foreign, Polygram Europe, Polygram Australia, so and so, Phonogram, whatever the companies were. But we weren't getting much cooperation. It was definitely one of those situations where I definitely recall writing up a letter and giving it to one of the supervisors on the project. His name was Bill Levinson. And he got back to me and said, you know what, this is going to be a logistical nightmare. It's going to take months. If we get any cooperation at all, it's not worth pursuing because we're just not going to be able to get this done in time. But fortunately, those efforts worked out later because when we remastered Peter Criss's solo albums, Out of Control and Let Me Rock You, Let Me Rock You wasn't released in the U.S. before it came out on CD. So we did get cooperation later. But as far as We Want the Best goes, by the time the final version of it was done, and I had heard it and I'd seen how they changed the packaging ideas and stuff, to be honest with you, I was so turned off by the project at that point that I didn't, it didn't interest me to see what the future plan was because the album really didn't do anywhere near as well as it could have. And it's unfortunate because it was one of those situations where we had it was even an idea at one point. Here's another thing. There was an idea at one point to have packaged Carnival of Souls with You Want the Best, You Got the Best. It would have been a bonus disc. But the marketing department felt it was going to create all this confusion. Well, that's new Kiss, not old Kiss. I'm like, you don't get it. Kiss fans want this music. I remember listening to Carnival of Souls in the record company, myself and about 6 other people at Mercury. We sat down and we listened to this record from start to finish. I thought it was amazing. I said, this needs to come out. Well, no, it can't because it's not Ace and Peter. I said, you still need to put this out. And they could have done it in a way that it wouldn't have created the type of confusion they were concerned about. And the album would have had a lot more impact, and it would have did better on the charts than it did by releasing it so much later and using the cover image that they did. I didn't think that was necessary. But
I just want to say, Doc McGee was around the time as a manager for You One of the Best, wasn't he?
I met Doc McGee for the first time at the Intrepid press conference, which was, I believe, April of 1996. So he was the manager at the time. But the thing was, the record company, we didn't really interface too much with McGee management in terms of day-to-day. It got to a point, originally, Paul and Gene wanted to see everything directly themselves. And then as they start, when the rehearsal started happening and the tour kicked off, they didn't have the time to be as hands-on with the albums as much as they were originally. So instead of us saying the stuff directly to Gene and sometimes Paul, we started saying the stuff over to McGee Entertainment to be approved. And I remember being in touch with Melissa and another woman named Sandy, if I remember correctly. And, they just would handle coordination of approvals. But for the most part, most of my relationship during my Kiss days, I had worked with Gene primarily and Paul as secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just got to say again, the vinyls that Universal are going to be released next month, are you surprised that these vinyls are coming back out again?
As far as certain Kiss albums being re-released on vinyl, it's very exciting in the sense that, hopefully a new generation of music listeners will see what this was originally all about. A 12 by 12 inch, piece of art with, the music inside and hopefully get to see the original, sleeves and liner notes and all the extra tchotchkes that used to come with these Kiss records. That sounds very exciting. I hope that they use the right resource materials. There are a couple of errors that happened with the remasters, which were very upsetting to me. That some were corrected, some weren't. So I hope they really used the original films on all these records, and if they didn't, that they scanned in the top quality, best quality ones. There was a release of Alive on vinyl a few years back that was just terrible as far as the album artwork. It was just so dark. It didn't capture what that photograph, the beauty of that image of Kiss on stage. So I hope that the quality control people there really keep an eye on this kind of thing, and hopefully the fans will get to see these albums as they were really, truly meant to be seen. One of the sad things about downloading music today is that you get a JPEG of the front cover, but it doesn't equate to just having that piece of 12 inch by 12 inch cardboard in your hand. And the tangibility of looking at a beautiful piece of art like Kiss Destroyer and just gazing at it. That's one of the things I miss most about new music, is that you don't really get that anymore.
Especially now they making the vinyls into 180 gram vinyls now. So
and that's very exciting. I mean, they've made the vinyls. I mean, there's a new specialty market for vinyl collecting, which is great, and I hope that market continues to grow. And I'm glad that they're finally releasing a lot of the old Kiss records that way. And, it would do my heart good to pick up a copy of Rock and Roll Over on vinyl, open it up, and have that sticker in there. That would just be amazing.
Well, surprisingly enough, Psycho Circus is going to be released for the very first time ever on vinyl.
Yeah, that is exciting. And if they do the packaging the same way or even better than they did the CD, that's going to be quite a good feat. Imagine opening up a 12 by 12 piece of art that's like a diorama when you fold it out. I mean, if they do it like that, that's going to be very exciting to see.
Now, just one question on You're One of the Best and the remastered as well. What was the major downfall or the major component that wasn't there for you? Like, were you put off by not just the encouragement? I mean, I don't know if you got much encouragement behind the scenes after it came out, because as you mentioned at the start of this talk of You're One of the Best, you had a vision, you had a dream, you had a goal, but once the final mix came through, it wasn't to your expectation. What was the major downfall out of all this that turned you off?
Well, the failure of You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, unfortunately impacted how the record company perceived the profitability of the remasters. For instance, my original concepts for the remasters included I'll use the first Kiss album as an example. Yep. We had created a digipack design for the first three Kiss albums, where it wasn't just your classic, jewel case layout. it was a cardboard digipack where you actually had a slip tray. You would actually slip out the CD, and the original design of the CDs, we were actually going to have the blue label for the original Casablanca blue label for the first 5 records, Kiss Through Destroyer, and then the original tan label for the next 2, and so on and so forth. Well, actually, if I remember correctly, the first tan label was Rock and Roll Over Only, and then Love Gun was the third label. So anyway, we meticulously laid all this out, and the other thing about the original concept of the remasters was that we had outtakes of some of the sessions. So Joel Brodsky, who shot the first album cover, we had a bunch of those outtakes in the office, and we were going to use those and some of the Waring Abbott pictures of Kiss in Central Park. We were going to add the lyrics so you could, in the Japanese CDs, they had the lyrics in almost all of them. We were going to do that. We had some. We were actually also going to include the trading card, a promotional trading card, because at the time there was a new company called Cornerstone that was doing the Kiss trading cards, so there was a way to promote them. All this stuff got nixed because of the failure of You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best. It was just the record company. They saw Danny Goldberg, who was president of Mercury, had worked for Kiss in the 70s with Casablanca, and I remember being in a meeting with him when he said quite clearly that Kiss was going to sell tremendously in the concert scenes, but You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best was indicative of the album's not doing well, so don't spend a lot of money on these repackagings. And it was really unfortunate because we had totally laid out Kiss, Hard in Hell, and Dressed to Kill with all this additional stuff, and it got nixed, which is too bad because to this day, here we are, 17 years later, 18 years later almost, and that stuff is still unused. It's really a shame.
Well, if you ever get a chance to meet Gene and Paul, would you ask them a question about that?
Well, it wasn't really their decision in the sense that the record company said they committed to remastering the catalog, which they did. It's just that they felt that charging a premium price for these remasters was not going to be profitable for them. I wrote like a 16-page essay as to why they should, even to the point of saying, well, look, if you're going to do jewel cases for the mass market version, why don't we do limited editions of 500 to 1,000 of these? And they just didn't want to get into the specialty market at the time, which was too bad because I truly believe if we did limited editions of those albums in that format, they would have sold tremendously well.
Yeah, Paul, I was just saying, not long after You Wanted the Best, I think Mercury Polygram collapsed, and I know Psycho Circus was the last album under the Kiss catalog that was recorded under that brand, under that market, the Polygram Mercury banner.
Yes, I believe Psycho Circus, Mercury, that was the last Mercury release. But
what I'm trying to say is, Robert, I think not long after the One of the Best album, the record label collapsed for Mercury Polygram.
Well, unfortunately, the music business itself had changed so much, and everybody and everything in it was impacted. And, it's unfortunate that such a wonderful era had to end, but it did, and it impacted everybody, obviously, including us. It's a shame that...
Yeah, I was just sorry for interrupting. I was just about to say it wasn't just You Wanted the Best. I mean, I think most albums that Kiss recorded under the Mercury Polygram label, a lot of the production was pretty under average compared to what originally. I mean, all you got to do is just look at some of the songs that was left out on Krazy Knights and Hot in the Shade and so forth, and those songs that were left out on those albums under the Polygram Mercury label could have been awesome to hear. I mean, I think David summed it up a couple of episodes ago while we were talking together, that Eric Carr song, Eyes of Love, of Rockology, that could have been on Hot in the Shade. But I think
it was a great sounding song, and unfortunately, I actually designed the Rockology CDs. I was very happy to have been part of that project too. The thing is that there was so much. There were demos that were recorded, and nothing to date has been done. You know, anything's been done with this stuff. The thing about a band that's been around for decades, you're going to have tons of demos. You're going to have tons of outtakes. You're going to have, different versions of songs that, and it, for instance, like on Lick It Up, there's a version of Not for the Innocent that's that's co-sang by Gene and Paul, which I thought was amazing. We wanted to have B-sides and outtakes and things on these remasters, but the budget just didn't allow for it. I had hoped that the Kiss box set that came out in 2001, 2002, I had hoped that box was going to have a lot more diverse material. I mean, the stuff that's on there is great, but there's a lot more. And I know a bunch of material circulates in the bootleg circuit, and but there's things that I had the pleasure of hearing that to this day I haven't seen out there. So I'm hoping that the band will do another box set that's going to be a lot more obscure material.
I did ask Gene on Twitter about another box set, and he said yes, there will be. So when that comes, who knows?
Who knows? I mean, I might be a grandfather by then. I mean, you never know. I'm still waiting for the Kiss Broadway show that was going to happen. So here we are, 15 years later. Still hasn't happened yet. One day.
Well, just moving on from You're One of the Best, what is your thoughts about Paul Stanley autobiography that will be out next month?
I'm very excited about Paul's autobiography, because something tells me it's going to be the most genuine of the four. Up till now, I've read Gene's, I've read Ace's, I've read Peter's. They all have their pros and cons. Out of those three, I think Peter's is probably the most genuine in the sense of how he told the story and didn't pull any punches, and and that's the kind of book I want to read. But I'm hoping Paul's is going to be maybe even more personal than the other three. There's been a lot of speculation as to what he's going to say, what he's not going to say. There's been certainly a lot of speculation by the fans over the years on Paul's various behaviors and antics on stage and things about his personal life. Hopefully, we live in an era where whatever the book is about, whatever it says, it's going to be truly from the heart. And Paul is I'm very excited to read this. More excited than I thought I'd be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. And also, I don't think this is going to be sugar-coated like the other three have been, whether they can have more sex than the other member or how big their penis is. The last three books have spoken about that. And I think Paul's going to be the most genuine out of the four originals. And also, the one thing that I am looking forward to is his business relationship with Gene Simmons in the non-makeup era, after they took the makeup off, because he was off doing I'm talking about Gene here, was off doing Hollywood movies, and here's Paul's sailing the ship on his own type of thing. So that's going to be interesting to see what comes. Yep.
No, I was going to say, I mean, there's certainly stories and certainly facts I know about Paul that are personal, and I'm not going to get into it on air, but
no.
I hope that some of those stories at least a couple of them, I hope he shares with his fans in the book, because they're very powerful stories, very, very provocative, and very, there's a couple things in general that I'm hoping he talks about in the book, and until I see it, I'm not going to say anything. But if he does, I will give him so much credit for being so forthcoming, because he's been very. I got to say, out of the four, I think Paul has kept some cards to the chest, really held cards to his chest really tightly. And if he's honest about a few things about himself and about, certain circumstances with Kiss's, ups and downs.
You're right. The thing is, over the last 12, 13 months, I think Paul has really opened up a lot more. And the good thing about this, and I'll be honest and bluntly, he's been honest. Everything that he has said is way he sees it, and you're right. He has hold the cards close to his chest, and I don't blame him. There are some things that he just don't want to talk about, and if he does talk about, you're not going to get the response that you probably desire. So I reckon more credit to him that he's opening up a lot more now.
Yes, I hope so. And like I said again, one of the things, we now live in a world where, if you're honest about yourself and you're honest about who you are and why you made certain decisions, people don't look down on you, they respect you. And I think that Paul's book is, it contains some of these things. I think the fans are going to love him more than ever. I really do.
Well, just to recap, to round this up, how can people get hold of you? Because we've been talking over an hour and 20 minutes now. It's been good. I love it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, one of the things I wanted to share, with your audience tonight is that I have been asked over and over and over again via email, via Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth, am I going to write a book about my days working with Kiss? And it's funny. I've been pondering it for the longest time, because I had always wondered, really, do I have enough to say to fill a book, or is my personal story as a Kiss fan going to be interesting enough for the other Kiss fans out there? So what I'm going to ask your audience is this: if you are interested in reading, the Robert V. Conte story and how it relates to working with the best band ever, I would like Krazy Knights fans to like my Facebook page, Robert V. Conte. Send me a friend request, and I will friend you and give you a nice little piece of information about a project I'm working on that I think will make Kiss fans very happy. And the idea is to really do something that I think, speaking from one fan to another, I think would be very exciting to see from a Kiss fan's perspective what it was like working for, your superheroes of a lifetime. And I hope to hear from each and every one of you.
And I did say at the start of this interview that we're going to plug it. We're going to put your page up on our Facebook page, our podcast page, like the Robert V. Conte Facebook page. Not your personal one. That's for the fans to go to. But the fan page that you've got for yourself, we'll definitely put that up on our page, and we'll plug it for you. And we'll pass the fans over to your way and correspond that way. And I will say this on behalf of Krazy Knights, guys, fans and listeners: just show you a bit of support and go over and support Robert in all his avenues that he's got coming up. And like I said, and Robert said that, add him on the Facebook. He'll give you all the details and all the whereabouts of his upcoming projects, and he'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on. And I've got to say, Robert, this has been absolutely awesome. I just love the stories of all the intakes and outtakes of you're one of the best, you got the best album, and yeah, this is going to be an awesome view for the fans to listen to, and I cannot wait for the responses from the fans who listen to this show and ask you personal questions as well.
Again, I thank Krazy Knights, I thank Jamie, and I thank David, and all you wonderful guys in Australia and worldwide that listen to the show. And it's great to keep Kiss alive, obviously, and let's all hope that this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing is going to work itself out to the delight of the fans. And I'm looking forward to sharing more information about my projects with you. And again, thank you so much for having me on. I deeply appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Robert. And like I was saying, we're going to put your fan page on our page. We're going to put your fan page on our page, and we're going to share as much as we can on the whereabouts of your upcoming projects, Robert.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be, talking again.
We will be. And guys, go to our page or Krazy Knights, the Australian Kiss podcast, and also subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got a subscribe button. Just click on that and subscribe. You get all the episodes weekly as they come up on YouTube, and go to our other pages that you'll see the link on YouTube. Robert, it's been a pleasure. It's come up to an hour.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Jamie.
All right then. Guys, we'll catch you next week, and hopefully David will join us next week. All right, guys.
Yes,
you later.
And I just want to give David a message that I have. He and his wife have my sincere condolences, and definitely in my thoughts. And I hope they work everything out, and he'll be back on air soon.
Yeah, he'll be alive and kicking. He'll be back here better than ever. He will be.
Excellent.
All righty, guys. Catch you next week, and, as always, there'll be another topic that we can all talk to. All right, Robert, it's getting early over there and getting into our dinner time here, so I'll get you on the Facebook very shortly.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Jamie.
All righty, mate. Cheers.
Right, good night.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, Jamie. How are you? Thanks for inviting me back.
The more the merrier. You're welcome back here anytime. And I just want to give you an update, Robert. Comic-Con has got back to our show by email, and they're looking into getting you over here for a Comic-Con Expo, whether it be this year or next year. At this present time, you're on the reserves, but your name's in the door. So your foot's in the door. We're just waiting for more confirmation and see if any people drop out over the next few months. And as soon as we know, you'll be the first one to know.
Well, that sounds very exciting. I've always wanted to travel down under. It would be a great opportunity to meet Kiss fans that have been very, very kind over the years, that have written me and mentioned how much they like the remasters and everything. And it would be a great opportunity to actually shake everybody's hand and say hello and meet you and David in person and have a great time. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that to happen.
Yeah, and by all means, this is our thanks to you, Robert, and we just want to make it grow. So the first question I have to ask on behalf of Krazy Knights, how is the project coming along, and do you have any last coming projects just to help build the audience for you and show support? They don't just necessarily have to be a Kiss fan to know who you are, but to be a comic fan. Yep.
if you're a comic book fan, if you're a fan of hard rock music in general, if you like trading cards, I mean, I've done so many things in the 28 years that I've been working creatively that if you go on to www.rebuildingrobert.com, that's the Facebook fan page, and if you could like that, I'll be able to send you guys some really cool updates and exclusive news and things as the project moves forward. I also have a personal Facebook page, which is Robert V. Conte, and if you look on that page and like that as well, then I'll send people who do respond to that exclusive tidbits and portions of some of the scripts and things as they're ready, and some behind-the-scenes stuff that I think Kiss fans will find interesting as time goes on.
We will definitely plug that for you on our podcast page on Facebook, Rebuilding Robert, the Facebook page, and we'll get the fans to go over to your personal page as well, and by all means to show you the support and the... Welcome to another episode of Krazy Knights, and I'm one of your Krazy Knights co-hosts, Jamie McNichol, and unfortunately I'm going solo due to, I want to hit up the top of the show, our other co-host David Fowler has had a couple of emotional days. He's lost a family member, not as a person, but more importantly, he's lost a very close relative in his family, his pet cat named PC, and it was put down yesterday due to a blockage in the urine tracts, and our hearts goes out to him and his wife, so they're just going through the emotional side. They just buried it today. And yeah, for everyone here at Krazy Knights, David, hang in there. And also, I'll be there next week, David, to cheer you guys up with my partner Shay and I coming over for a couple of days over the weekend to see an awesome band, Ice Earth, and a few other things. But we'll get that out of the way, and let's go into this show right now. It's another warm welcome. We had this person on last year, towards the end of last year, and he's worked with Kiss on the remaster sessions. He also has a project called Rebuilding Robert, and we are talking to the man himself again, Robert V. Conte. Good evening, Robert, and welcome aboard again.
Playing in Candyland and thinking that life is all good and everything's happy, and then all of a sudden you eat a candy cane that's rotting from the inside. Not very tasty, is it? No. So, we got some news that was very difficult pill to swallow. We've had to take some time off to kind of reconfigure things and figure out the best way to tell the original story with this extra element in it that we were hoping to make the most of it. And, the show is going to be moving forward just with a different dynamic. And that's what life's all about anyway. So when the concept of Rebuilding Robert is oneself rebuilding from tragedy, setbacks, illnesses, bad news, ex-girlfriends, whatever, and trying to rise above it. So in the sense of the concept, it remains the same, but the dynamics changed a little bit. And I hope I haven't bored you with that long explanation.
No. So we were talking at the start of the show, Robert, is there a fan page that people can go to or any website they can go to come up with any updates on that project?
Well, you're referring to the show Rebuilding Robert, which I've
that's right. Yeah,
which I've been working on in various stages for the past 6 months or so. When we first spoke back in the summer, we were ready. I was ready to proceed, Mach 10, as far as I was concerned, as far as getting it going and getting it produced. And there's this thing called life that gets in the way sometimes. The metaphor is the roller coaster. You have your highs and you have your lows, and somehow you have to make it all work out, right?
Yep.
So, during the initial pre-production of Rebuilding Robert, unfortunately, we were hit with a major setback in the sense that the original plot in the original direction we were going to go in regarding the show and its original premise, we got hit with some information that unfortunately had to change the entire direction of what we had originally conceived the show to be into a brand new setting. I can't get too much into it yet, but it was a situation where imagine